Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this beautiful sunrise safari. I'm sorry about that. We were busy sitting here and we lost our comms a little bit, but it is a beautiful morning. As you can see, lots and lots of little spotty creatures all over the place. My name is Tristan, and on camera today we have Fergus. Hello, Fergus. There we go. And we've come to the carcass with Thandi, and there are just hyenas absolutely everywhere. So at the moment we can count the 6 or 7 of them here. I think there's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and there's one that's coming up from the back. So there's 8 hyenas here, another 4 that we saw on the way, and so I think the entire Djuma clan must be here. So if we're wondering how many members of the Djuma clan are around, whether or not there's any individuals that we haven't been seeing, I think this is going to be the perfect situation to be able to try and find out who exactly is still part of the clan and who exactly is around. So it is quite nice, although they are looking like they're starting to depart the scene. They have absolutely stripped Thandi's carcass. What they've done is they've managed to get to the back leg area, and they've just pulled as much as they can, and all of that's left is basically just a head with bits of ribbons coming down. So those that are a bit squeamish, probably not the best view, but that's all that's left. You can see how they've jumped and just pulled pieces as much as they can. And let's see, maybe this hyena will jump for us. It is amazing actually to watch how high they can jump. You can see they're down just below it at the moment. Absolutely no sign of Thandi. She's left the area. I think she's decided she's not going to come back to this. More than likely she knows that there's been so many of these hyenas marauding around that it's probably not the best idea to kind of stick around. But I would love to know from all of you, especially those that follow our hyenas regularly, if maybe you can and ID some of the individuals that are here, because it would be nice to know. I see Djuma is around. She's been moving around in this particular area. And there seems to be Ribbon. I think I saw Ribbon earlier as well here, so it seems as though everybody's around. But like I say, there's another 4 on their way from, or 5, I didn't see exactly. It looked like 4 or 5 of them. Let's see, is it going to jump? It looks like it wants to. Look. Looks like that. That's why it almost looks as though it's been kind of stripped with a knife, is because they're jumping with their teeth and grabbing and trying to get what they need. Now, can you imagine how difficult it must be and how kind of tantalizing it must be to have this carcass just dangling up above you? It's almost like the proverbial carrot, but you can see how much they jump. Isn't this amazing? So you would think that hyenas are not capable of jumping, but there you can see that they actually are able to, and eventually they'll get it right. And as long as they get a bit of a hold on it, they might be able to get it. The problem is those horns have wedged perfectly into the branch. How amazing is that? Very cool. Now I see there's another hyena just coming in. Oh, there we go. Look at that. Look, it's dangling. What is going on? That's amazing. Hyenas are funny creatures, and I wonder if it will stay there for longer. Let's see. No, we haven't got it. We're trying though. There's a lot of effort for only a few mouthfuls at this stage, but you can see how determined it is, and you can listen to the bones crunch as it jumps. Can you hear that? That is amazing. And it's just little ribbons coming off at the moment, and this must have been going on all night like this. That's so cool. Not every day you get a jumping hyena to start your morning. That's ridiculously cool. Just goes to show you as well as why leopards have to put their carcasses so high, because even at that height there, it is definitely not safe from hyenas. You can see how they've absolutely mangled this. Last night I saw Scott was here and there was a lot more of this carcass. There was still the back legs, front legs, and quite a few of the organs, and now it's been absolutely stripped. There really is just this neck, and I don't know how much longer that's going to last. It seems as though these guys are just going to keep kind of pushing and trying their very best. But look at that. It's almost like a naughty dog trying to beg for food. When you kind of have a dog and it's like sitting in the kitchen or something and sees you making something, that's almost how it looks. And here comes little Djuma. She's coming in. I think it's Djuma. It looks like Djuma coming in to have a little look as well. and is going to go and scout about. The rest of them seem to be departing the scene now. I think the rest of them have decided that they'll go rest and come back later tonight. Irma, you're wondering how far they are away from the dam cam, which brings me to the fact that I didn't tell you all how to get hold of us, which is hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. So for all of you that are wondering how to ask questions, and also YouTube chat. But Irma, they are fairly far away. They're down past Philemon's Dip, but the 4 that we saw on the way here are the ones that you might have seen on the dam cam, because I saw them coming from that area. And so the rest of the clan is up on quarantine side, and they look like they were up to no good. They were chasing around all kinds of things, and that's why we couldn't keep up with them, because as they were going, we kept trying to kind of follow them, but they would run off into different areas, and unfortunately we couldn't keep up. So I'm sure that's the group that's there, but this looks like all the Djuma clan. The interesting thing though is the way that they're departing is all to the southwest at the moment. So even though we know that there is one individual that was, or 2 individuals that were denning to the north on Aubrey's Road, the rest are heading straight on my right hand side down and deep in to the thickets here. And I wonder if maybe there isn't a den site somewhere to the south of us, if not on Djuma, maybe in Hofmann's. I've been theorizing that there might be one, because it seems as though the more dominant females of this clan, so Madam and Pretty, they seem to head always to the southwestern side, past Treehouse Dam, and then along down into Hofmann. So I wonder if maybe that's where the den is for them. I didn't see any suckling females, to be honest, while I've been sitting here, so I don't know if there is any. Oh, look, it's on. Look, it's just... Watching a hyena dangle from an impala head is one of the stranger things I've seen in my time in the bush. Now, Mary, you're wondering if anyone has checked on the little one at the hyena den in the last few days. I haven't, to be honest. I'm not sure if any of the other guys have. I'll try and ask around this morning once we get going and listen for the other guides just to see. But at this stage, I haven't heard anything about that little one. The last time I know for a fact that it was checked was earlier in the week, I think around Monday or Tuesday, and it was there. But since then, I'm not 100% sure. I think Noel was the last one to see it with a tortoise kill. I'm not sure if there's been any other sort of reports of it since then. But I will ask around, and we'll try and check up and see what's happening. The thing is, if we go there now, I doubt there'll be too much happening, given how many hyenas are around this carcass. I would imagine that 90% of the clan, like I say, is in this area, and I wonder if the other 4 that were up near quarantine will arrive as well. It's really cool to see though. This is the most hyenas I've seen on Djuma, I think, since I've started here, so thoroughly enjoying the fact that we've got so many, and the antics this morning are just insane. The fact that we've got a hyena jumping and grabbing at a carcass and dangling from an impala head is all a bit weird, to be honest. It's quite amazing actually to watch this kind of scene unfold. Absolutely insane. Right, now while I sit here and watch our jumping hyena do more tricks and turns and twirls, which so far has been getting a perfect 10 score, let's go across to Scotty D so he can say good morning to all of you, and I believe he's been off doing a spot of tracking.
Good morning. Welcome on board. My name's Scott and I'm teamed up with Senzo on camera. We've just found some very, very exciting prospects. Now, it's tracks of leopard. Interestingly, a female leopard, Thandi's sister, so the leopard responsible for making that kill that you saw the hyenas trying to grab with Tristan. It sounded incredible. She headed south down this road. We had a set of her tracks going this way. Let me show you one of those tracks. Where can I find one of the tracks going in the right direction? Here. So here you can possibly make out 2 tracks. Here the toes in front, a little back pad. So here's her tracks heading this way. But then if we look over here, actually this is probably going to be the best one. There's one track heading away and another track heading back this way, and interestingly the track where she's heading back has also got another set of tracks following her young daughter. So I'm guessing what's happened is the mother had left her sub-adult to go hunting. She made a kill somewhere in this area, went and collected the youngster, and now it's taken her back. So now we have the joy of trying to follow these tracks to what I'm guessing is a kill. Now, it's certainly not easy business. following tracks, especially because the sun has yet to rise. So it's difficult to spot them, but very, very good prospects. If we do manage to follow these tracks, I'm fairly certain we are going to find not one, but 2 leopards on a kill. So, very, very good prospects. You know, it's hopefully Tristan is going to have some luck finding Thandi and her tiny little cub. So it could be a leopard-filled morning, but we still both have lots of work to do. It's so awesome being able to hop on and off the vehicle again and follow up on the tracks of animals. It's something I've missed dearly up in the Mara. There's no real need for tracking up there. It's so open and clear that you can see for miles. Now, what I'm probably going to do is ask for a little bit of time to focus on where these tracks head. Now, I've been scouring this road that we came down, and there was no sign of any tracks before I got to this area. So I'm guessing what may have happened is that the leopard may have ducked off somewhere off to the right into this thicker vegetation. There's a major dry riverbed running off to our right over here, and it'll be a good spot for us to check for any tracks. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to spend a bit of time on foot trying to work out exactly what's going on and send you back to Tristan in the meantime.
Well, hopefully Scotty will be able to find what's happening there. Isn't it exciting that there might be a female with a cub around? So maybe Shadow is here, and you can see our hyena is still not giving up. It's up and down all over the place, and it's amazing to watch this thing, how high it can jump. You would think hyenas with that awkward sort of body shape, and look at that. You see how it latches on, and then it kind of just pulls down, and it's just stripping little bits off. It is really an incredible display of agility for an animal that's not known to be agile at all. We know hyenas to be bulky, really kind of heavy set animals that are built for power, but watching this individual jump like this has been the most fascinating thing. And I have seen them do it before, but not as long as this. This has just been non-stop. It's up and down, up and down. And when it gets dangling like that, isn't that ridiculous? It's almost like when you have a dog at a park and you're playing with it and a Chitwa. Now we're in an impasse. We've gotten to a point now where everything is stopped. Oh no. There we go. Now, it must be the worst thing for this hyena. It's just, oh, there we go, it's on. It's latching on, and you can see it is getting little bits, but eventually it's going to get to the point where it's not going to be able to jump anymore to reach it. But I'm absolutely astounded at how agile this individual is being, and wonder if all the rest have been feeding like this, if this is how they all kind of went about it, because there's some here that have got very full bellies. There's one in the background that is absolutely massive, so maybe that one got the lion's share of what's going on. So that individual over there, you can see, got quite a big heavy round tummy. And like I say, I would like to know who all of these all of these hyenas are, not people, all of these hyena individuals are that are here at the moment, because it's super interesting. There's one that's excavating a bit in front here. There's all kinds of things going on, and interestingly enough, the individual that is busy feeding must be a fairly dominant individual within the clan, because the rest of them are all on the fringes, just kind of not going anywhere near. They're not trying their luck to go too close to that carcass. And as I say that, there comes one striding in at the moment. That one I think is going to be a little on the short side. So Gypsy Mystery, you're wondering how often hyenas will steal a treed food item from a leopard. Fairly regularly, actually. If it's not put up far enough, then they do it quite often. I've seen it a few times. I've seen them, you know, leopards kind of putting carcasses low down in a tree, thinking that hyenas won't get to them, but then realizing very quickly that that's not exactly how it works. So it does happen from time to time. It it's not always the case. If a leopard can get it out of the reach of a jumping hyena, then obviously that's it. So unfortunately, this particular carcass and the tree that it's in is just not going to be able to take it any higher. And so Thandi's got a situation where she's pretty much lost it. And I don't think she'll come back to this. At the end of the day, I have a feeling that the ribbons that you're seeing here and the little bits, Thandi almost knows that this has been taken by hyenas. Her tracks are coming out with hyena tracks coming in. And the number of hyenas here would have meant that when they were feeding, there would have been lots of commotion that was happening and a lot of noise, and she probably realizes very quickly that her carcass is gone for now. Although you never know, maybe she'll come back and just investigate later in the day, although I have a funny feeling she's gone back to this den site, which I don't quite know where it is yet, but apparently there's a new den site, so I would imagine that she's there this morning and is just having a really good kind of suckle with the cub and just some cub time, which is quite nice. But it's been fascinating to watch her on this carcass, and it just goes to show the behavior is completely different when they become mothers, because at the end of the day, they don't spend nearly as much time at a carcass as what they would if they were not mothers, or if the cub was able to come to the kill, because she's left this carcass, I think, more time than she has actually spent at it. So she just comes, feeds, gets herself nice and full, and then she goes back to the cub and rather spend her time there keeping that little one safe, which bodes well for that cub's safety in life, because at the end of the day, if mom is doing that and making sure that she's there a lot, she's hopefully going to be protecting it and making sure that it stays safe. But look at this, that is just ridiculous. It's hanging in, and you see how it kind of bobs itself and it uses its muscles to try and kind of shake and almost use the weight to its advantage to keep pulling, and that whole tree is almost bending under the weight of that hyena. It is absolutely fascinating to watch this individual feed, and I wonder if the rest of them are going to come in and feed at some point. I would imagine that's going to be the case. It is seriously interesting feeding behavior, and I don't think this is something that you'll see all that often. Is most certainly, I have not seen a hyena this persistent, jumping and hanging on to a carcass like that any time in my career. So it is really very, very cool. Oopsie, don't fall. Now, at some stage, I will need to let the other guys know what's going on, but we, for now, are just going to enjoy this. Absolutely cool. But you can see how they've just pulled out strip after strip after strip. It is absolutely phenomenal to kind of watch. Let's see, up she goes again. And you see the others are nervous of it. So there definitely are individuals here, males and younger individuals, that are pretty nervous of the individual that is feeding at the moment. And I don't know if we've got an ID on which one this is. But one hyena I don't see out of any of the ones that we've seen today is Gwen, which is a little bit sad, because I was hoping that she might be in amongst us, but at the moment, no sign of her. Seems as though some of the males are here, and even that newer male that's just arrived out of nowhere. So there is a male that's within this clan now that seems to be moving around with the more dominant males, and he was here earlier. I did see him, and it looked like Comet was also here at one point. So most of them are around. It's just getting an idea on exactly which individuals are which. The glad to see Tima's here as well. It's good news. It means that she's out the den and kind of moving around with the clan and starting to feed on her own and kind of interacting with everybody. That's always good news, that's for sure. But this is just so cool. Like I say, it's not every day that you're going to see a jumping hyena, that's for sure. Bobby, you're wondering if its tooth got caught on a bone. Would the tooth break or would the bone break? Well, I think it depends on the size of the bone. So if it's a small little rib bone or something like that, I would imagine the bone would give way. But there's a very real possibility of that tooth breaking if that hyena gets it caught maybe in the spine or something like that. The amount of weight and leverage on that tooth would definitely be in a situation where there could be a bit of an issue. So most certainly there is that possibility, and it could very well happen that they end up with a situation where it breaks a tooth. Hopefully that won't be the case, and this particular hyena's got a beautiful set of dental structure, so we'll hope that that doesn't happen. So, Patty, with vultures and eating in the trees, vultures can't eat in these trees for two simple reasons. One is that they can't land there, so there's not enough space for their wingspan to be able to actually get into that tree. There's too much foliage and branches, and so they would really battle to be able to land in that area. The second thing is that there's only could be one or two vultures that would be able to feed there, and the amount of food that they would get out of it for the struggle to try and actually get to it and the fight they would have to do with others would mean that they would probably very difficult for them to actually get anywhere near it. So it's not worth the effort. Plus there's normally something like a leopard around that chases them, and so that's why vultures don't really come to it. On the top of that, is very difficult to spot a carcass in a tree. The foliage tends to cover it and mean that they can't really actually get into a situation where they can see what's going on. So it's kind of a non-event for vultures because they can't actually get to the carcass and they don't see it, and so that's why they don't feed off it. I'd imagine if maybe they could see it, you might find them feeding a little bit, but for the most part they just try and kind of avoid that and spot the bigger, larger carcasses like buffalo kills and things like that. But I think there's going to be a bit of resting now. It seems as though so Michael, you say the one jumping is Ribbon. Well, that's good news. I suppose Ribbon does have, in Djuma being around would indicate that Ribbon must have been here. And like I said, there are hyenas pretty much everywhere at the moment. They're all around us. So it would be nice to kind of try and have a look at who everybody is. I know Michael's very good at IDing a lot of our hyenas, and so maybe Michael will be able to see the footage of all of them, and we'll be able to kind of get somewhat of an idea of who actually is sitting around and enjoying this impala carcass. Cheetah Liger, you're wondering if hyenas have attempted to climb a tree to get to a kill. So I've seen them trying to kind of get up sides of trees, but they can't climb. There's no ability to climb a straight tree. If there's a slight angle to the tree, then they'll try and do that, but otherwise they don't have the ability, they don't have the structure to be able to climb, and hence why leopards put their kills in trees, is to be able to try and get it away from all of these guys and try and keep it sort of safe. So no, they can't really climb. It's only if there's some sort of incline or decline that they're able to kind of use that angle to get closer towards it, but even then they don't go very high at all. It's almost as though they're scared of heights in a way, that they don't want to go up, and their body structure dictates that they can't climb. They don't have that ability. They have much smaller paw structures than what you see on a leopard or a lion. Their claws are not nearly as sharp to be able to actually get the grip to be able to sort of pull themselves up, and then also those back legs being shorter just don't help with a small tail. That you need a longer tail to balance, and then longer legs at the back as well, just to help try and kind of even that situation as you go up. So they just really are poorly designed for any sort of climbing ability whatsoever, and hence why they don't do it at all. But there's little Intima, so she's coming in now as well, and just scratching around, the nose to the ground, having a little look, trying to pick up any bits that might be around. The other hyena now has decided, that's it, I'm done, and is lying at the bottom, completely passed out now. So all that jumping activity takes it out of a hyena, so there we go, completely on its side, sleeping. So, John, you're wondering how tall a hyena is when it's on its back legs like that. If it's kind of standing on its back legs, then I would say it's probably over 5 feet in height when it's kind of jumped to that carcass, and then if you have it stretched out like that, that would be easily 5 feet. I'm 6'2", and if I had to go and stand there, where the impala head is hanging, so the top part where there's no flesh, or where the flesh is starting to be stripped from the actual neck, that would be probably my height. So that would be able to give you an idea of how tall that is. But now all of a sudden these hyenas are all just starting to run. Look, everybody's just running off. I don't know what's going on. Maybe they just got a bit of a fright with the vehicles being around, but everybody just started to charge away from this area. Now I'm looking around just trying to see if maybe there's some other hyenas approaching, or you never know, they could, with noise of them tearing at a carcass. Things like lions can pick it up. Sometimes you'll even get situations where leopard pick it up, and so they get a bit of a fright. But I would pity any leopard that comes here now. They're going to have a tough time of it, because these well, there's so many hyenas here that these leopards won't be able to go anywhere near this carcass. And I think the hyenas will build a little camp here today. They're not going to go too far at all. But you can see there's also a lot of displaying behavior and a lot of marking behavior. Look, you see where they dig like this? So maybe, let's see, I was thinking she might start pasting, but no, hasn't done that yet. But there's a lot of ground scraping going on and a lot of kind of manipulating of the vegetation around here. The hyenas do it a lot. They'll often then urinate and defecate in that area as well. And you can see how some of them are trying to kind of get to the carcass, but Ribbon is now lying in the perfect place for them to be able to start jumping. And so I think it's going to be a situation where everybody's going to have to try and be a bit patient and wait for others to move off. But there certainly are members here that fed a lot more than others, because you can see the size of some of their bellies are absolutely massive. Yeah, Judy, you say the next Special Olympics or Olympics should have hyena jumping in it. I think so too, because it's been quite wonderful watching that hyena jump. And I feel like that, you know, Ribbon, while she did a good job, I feel like maybe some of the others might have more style points. She had a few wobbly kind of dismounts and landings, so maybe there'll be some others that are a little bit more steady on the feet. And I'm also was hoping that one of them would kind of jump and land and then give it the old arms in the air and pose and a little pirouette and more arms in the air. What do you think, Ferg?
Exactly.
I think so too, yes. We need style points on top of effect. A triple pike, yes. Maybe a triple piking hyena would be quite fun. There was a video that went around for a while of giraffe on a high board where they were kind of swinging each other around, and it was all very funny to watch. So maybe we'll get hyenas in the Olympics and they can do all kinds of different individual twists and turns and jumping, and I suppose you'd have to bait them with impala heads, which won't be so pretty, but anyway. So Safari Dean, you say months from now we'll have to do a bushwalk past here and see if that skull is still stuck up there. Well, Safari Dean, I would imagine even in a week's time from now, you will find that the hyenas eventually will just get bored of it and will not be able to get anywhere near it and leave it. Or a leopard might come along and actually start feeding off it. You never know. Thandi might come back here at some point, or a male leopard comes past. We know Tingana is not adverse to just meandering around and picking up on things like this, so maybe he'll be around. You never know. So, but at this stage, I would imagine that impala head, if a leopard doesn't come, is going to be firmly wedged in that tree and will not be going anywhere. So maybe in a couple of weeks' time we should just take a meander past here and have a little look and see what's going on. But you can see it's just a hyena fest at the moment. I suppose it is that time of the year. It's that time of the year where everybody kind of eats and goes a bit crazy and has too much fun over the festive season, and so why not allow the hyenas to do that? And you can see Ribbon is certainly quite happy to be lying about. And the worst part about that whole thing is that she pooped right there, and she's busy rolling around in her own poop, which is delightful, really. It's nothing like rolling around in your own poop to start the day after having a bout of exercise and jumping all over the place. So hopefully she will kind of move off and clean herself up just now. But she definitely took a big poop there while taking all that effort to jump, and now she has thoroughly rolled that into her coat, which is, I don't know how I really feel about it, but it is what it is at this stage. There we go, she's just having a look around. Maybe our jumping is going to start again. You can see her breath coming out. It is actually quite cool this morning. It's much cooler than I thought, although apparently we're in for a stinking hot day. I believe that it's going to get up above 40 degrees Celsius, which is way over 100 Fahrenheit, and so I believe it's going to be very, very warm, and so I'm sure these hyenas will take advantage of this cool period, because if the sun gets up any further, it probably is going to warm up quite a bit. But it's nice to see this kind of cool breath, or her warm breath in the cool morning. And you see all the flies coming off of that carcass as well. There's a number of flies on there that are laying their maggots, or their eggs, which will then become maggots. Come on, Ruben. I wonder how frustrating it must be just to jump like this and then like grab it and feel as though you've got it, and then it not to come down. It must be highly irritating for these hyenas, and I wonder if they'll get to a point where the amount of weight on it will cause these hyenas to be able to kind of break those horns. Maybe that's going to be what happens instead of the teeth, and it'll all come crashing down again. Anyway, while we kind of sit here and enjoy the antics of our hyena clan, let's go back across to Scotty, who is still busy tracking and still busy investigating what's going on.
Hello everyone. We've been trying to work out what exactly is going on with the set of leopard tracks that we are trying to follow, and basically what I've done is I've looped ahead and checked a soft sandy riverbed where I could quite easily see some tracks of what looks like the female leopard, the mother, heading back to collect her cub, but there's no tracks of heading beyond that set of single tracks, which means in theory that they are somewhere between the tracks of her alone and her with the cub, which means somewhere possibly in this area. Go ahead, Tax. I'm just chatting with Tax and one of the guides. Confirm she's crossed south. Okay, copy that. Thanks very much. Well, sadly the leopard we are tracking has just been seen crossing south out of this property. So what that means is, who knows, maybe she didn't have a kill, maybe I was just presuming, or maybe she did make a small kill, something like a duiker, which her and her youngster would have been able to finish off in the course of the night and then carry on with their business. So that means we're going to have to go and look for another leopard, which saves us a lot of time, because I would have not been able to leave these tracks. It's too exciting a prospect to leave them until you know where they've in fact ended up. But thankfully, working as a team with all the other guides, not only who traverse our area, but also guides who can traverse other areas adjacent to us, by us all sharing, information, it makes our lives a lot easier when it comes to finding the animals. Very good. So now what to do, I'm not too sure. I'll maybe head up towards our kind of northern boundary along our eastern boundary and just see if there's any tracks of anything coming or going. But before that, we need to get our way back onto the road, which isn't too far from here. Hello Trista, you'd like to know if these new den sites have been found? Yes and no. Basically, Taxon, one of the Djuma guides, was able to follow Thandi back into a very densely wooded area that is kind of tricky to get into with the vehicle. And they did get a visual of the young cub and Thandi in this area, but there wasn't like a big termite mound or a cave. It was just a very, very thick area with lots of hiding places for a young cub. So the guys have got an idea of the general area, and I think Tristan is going to try and spend some time snooping about there this morning. But both Tristan and I aren't exactly sure whereabouts it is. We've got a good idea, quite close to Tristan's house actually. We all live in slightly different areas. Basically, there's a small crew that stays at one house, and that's where Tristan is, and her kind of general area of her den is probably only half a mile away from that. So I'm feeling confident within the next few days we should get some visuals of her and her young cubs. Oh cool, Senzo just spotted a hyena and it's heading straight towards us, so let's just wait here for it to run down the road to us. Morning. And it seems like the hyena have had a good night out. I'm guessing that this individual didn't cash in on the impala that you saw the other hyena snacking on with Tristan at the start of the show. And haven't seen any hyena since I've been here, so this is a wonderful sight. What do you know that we don't? It's a beautiful, beautiful morning as the sun's beginning to poke through. And isn't this a wonderful scene? Hello, Gypsy Mystery. You would like to know what is the most difficult animal we have to deal with? Gypsy Mystery, difficult in terms of what exactly? In terms of finding, in terms of safety, in terms of tracking. I think it's definitely fair to say the leopard is one of the most elusive and hard animals to track down. In terms of danger, I would say it's the herbivores when we're on foot. Isn't this great? She's walked straight up to us. I say she, but I'm not actually convinced it is a female. It could be a male. It's not the biggest of hyenas. Morning. Off you go. Well, have a good morning. We're going to continue in the opposite direction to you. We're not going to follow the hyena around the whole morning. So yeah, Gypsy Mystery, let me know exactly what you mean by difficult, and then I can try and fine-tune my answer to you. Oh, troublesome. You said troublesome. But still troublesome in terms of what, Gypsy Mystery? And I can then fine-tune my answer for you. But to be honest, none of the animals really give us too much of a hard time, unless, of course, we don't read into their often very clear signs and signals which tell us that they are not too happy with our presence. It's not uncommon for most wild animals, or most beings really, to give you some kind of a display before they attack you. They kind of try and warn you by growling or making themselves look big or flaring some bright colors. Alrighty, well, now that the sun's up, we're going to be able to move a little bit faster while looking for any more tracks, because a shadow gets cast on the outer edges of the track, making it easier to see. As we headed out this morning, we had to kind of move really slowly in order to be able to make sure we didn't over important tracks. I fear that my desire to track things may actually cause me to focus too much on the tracks and not actually just pick your head up and look around. But I'll get the balance right between keeping your eye on the road for tracks and keeping your head up and scanning. And while at least while I continue to work out the right ratio of those two things, we are going to send you back to Tristan, who is still with the hyena.
I am indeed, and the reason why is that it's just been highly entertaining to be with this group this morning. They've been full of beans and ribbon. Obviously jumping up and down has been quite entertaining, as well as the fact that we just never get to see this many hyenas in one place normally on Djuma, and I can't remember the last time I saw as many hyenas as this in one little sighting. So I'm thoroughly enjoying being around them, and I can hear them all kind of calling to one another around this area, and you can hear them all through the bush, that they're kind of having a bit of time together. And I think Ribbon's maybe going to get a little bit warm. You see, look at that greeting, that they're busy sniffing. They'll go around and you can see that one knows that it needs to give way to Ribbon, who wants to get into the shade, and I think wants to go and lie down out of the sun. Where she was lying underneath the kill there was right in the sun. Now let's see if this one's going to start the jumping story. You can see it's quite aware of what's going on and sniffing around a little bit. That's where Ribbon defecated. But interesting behavior. Hyenas are fascinating. The way that they kind of give way for each other, and this very stringent social structure that goes on is absolutely incredible. It's amazing how they kind of go about their business and how they work things out and see what's happening. Look how it's sniffing around, just trying to get an idea of what's going on. And it is looking up at the carcass, but I think it might be a little bit too short to actually get it. It's only the biggest hyenas that will be able to get to that food item, and Tima's got no chance, even though she's looking very longingly up at that impala head, and she's way too short to be able to get anywhere near that particular carcass. There we go. I think everyone's going to try and find some shade now and have a bit of a rest. But that was very cool. That was an epic sighting of hyenas, that's for sure, and a great way to start our day. I know it's not a leopard, and I seem to have had no luck with this carcass with Thandi. Every time I come here, she seems not to be here other than the day that she actually killed it. So I think we're going to go carry on and see what else is around and see what we can find. If we have no luck, we can always come back to our hyenas a little bit later. But that was spectacular. I thoroughly enjoyed that. Right, let's not crash on our way out. That will be nice not to do. There we go. I think we should. Right, now while I try and get myself out of this area, let's head all the way back to the Mara and Ralph so he can say good morning.
Over the Masai Mara, looking over the Mara Triangle with the hot air balloons having just taken off, and we're sitting here near to some buffalo just next to the road as well. They're also just taking their time waking up, as everybody is out here early in the morning. My name is Ralph Kirsten, and we have Archie on the camera. Thanks, Archie. Yes, so this morning we're starting out, we're having a look out over the plains here, and I think the plan for this morning is going to be to head down towards the river and take the river road and go on a little bit of an exploration, because I haven't really explored too much of the Mara Triangle. I've been along with a couple of the other guides just checking things out. I've been up in the hot air balloons as they are busy rising now, and had a nice look from above, but I want to get down to the nitty-gritty and a bit closer to the Mara River and see if we can find some of the big cats. It's an absolutely stunning view from here, folks. It is. Thanks for the comments coming in. Please, everybody get involved. The hashtag Safari Live on Twitter and the YouTube live chat. We'd love you to throw us your questions and comments. And please join me this morning as we head out on this discovery drive. The whole night we've been hearing lions roaring, and it's been a fantastic, quiet evening with the calls of the lions coming up the escarpment, and we could hear them from camp. And I can hear off in the distance there are still a couple roaring. Right, I think I want to try not disturb these buffalo. They are sitting here lovely and quietly ruminating as they are lying next to the road. So I'm going to try and drift past them and not disturb them too much. But let's see how we go. Or maybe I won't even start up. Just put on the ignition so we can turn the steering wheel. Sorry guys. Don't stress, we're just gonna drift past you. That's it. Oopsie. Sorry guys. Okay, they're just gonna shift off a little bit. Not too bad. That's it. Okay, folks, here we go. It's lovely to see out in front of us a lot of these balanites trees that we have, and there's a few shepherd's trees in between them as well. And you can see that browse line that you get from the elephants and the giraffe, that the animals literally can't reach up any further than that. And looky what we have here. The typical hyenas before they head off to bed. And what's this one got? Looks like he's got a And as we watch this hyena just chewing on a skull here, it looks like, we've just got a request that's come through from Sabi, who'd like to see some crocodiles. Well, Sabi, I'm going to head down towards the river, and I'm pretty sure that we should be able to find some hippos as well as some massive crocodiles. I have not seen crocodiles as big as I've seen them here in the Mara River, and I have seen quite a lot of crocodiles in my life, but these 5 to 6 meter crocodiles are pretty impressive, and I think it's mainly down to the diet of a lot of hooved animals. So it's quite incredible, the actual size. You know, in the Kruger Park, etc., they do get the odd animal on the hoof, but it's mainly down to they're eating more fish, etc. But now back to our subject here, and I wonder what these hyenas were up to last night. We did hear them around camp, and this one I think has now found something just a little bit to chew on. So it's lovely to sit and watch these hyena here as they do their last little bit of activity in the morning. Now, James Richard, you're wondering, am I looking forward to spending some time with cheetah? James Richard, absolutely. I love spending time with all these big cats, with the hyena, and that's obviously one of the big spectacles of the Mara and the Mara Triangle. It's I hear that in the Mara Triangle there's not particularly that many cheetah. Some of them do cross the river, but I'm really looking forward to crossing the river on the other side and finding some of those cheetah. The density of predators is unreal in this greater part of Kenya and the Masai Mara. So that's why I'm here, and that's why we are here, Safari Live, with the absolute diversity, especially with the predators. So it's a fantastic spot to be in, and right now I wouldn't rather be anywhere else in the world. So as this hyena is still chewing on this skull here, he's got it up in an angle. He's trying to chew off probably any of the last little bits of meat, which is quite nice. And the other one seems to have also found something. He's got a little bit of interest there. But it's fascinating to be sitting with any of the predators, and these hyenas are second to none in their nature. Really, I mean, the other night I was sitting with the local Kenyans, the camp ops, and some of the tech guys, and we were having an absolute laugh about all the hyena antics. They are really special. They're different to the rest of the cats and the other predators. It's a totally different kind of behavior. So I'm going to start to head down towards the river, folks, and in the meantime we do just give you a chance to go back 1,600 kilometers, miles, down to Scott, who's got a lovely bird for you.
Yes, welcome all the way back down south. We have a glorious woodlands kingfisher that's letting off its chick call, which is a quintessential sound of the low-felt summer. Now, interestingly, you also get these very same birds up in the Mara. Oh, off it goes, where Ralph is exploring. And the ones up there, I don't think they migrate like our individuals do, possibly maybe a semi-seasonal migration, but we only get these woodlands kingfishers during our summer months, and it's always very exciting when they arrive back in town because they are beautiful to look at, and they also have that very distinctive call, which is definitely a call of the summer. Their chorus dominates the airwaves. So it seems like it's been a morning where the hyena have been getting a lot of time with you and you with them. Initially with Tristan and the kill, then just a random one walked past me, and now one scoffing a wildebeest skull with Ralph. So Now that we've ticked hyena off the list, I wonder what we will be able to find you next. What's that?
It's a hyena day.
It's a hyena day, according to Senzo. Maybe, who knows, maybe we'll have some more action with hyena. But they tend to, at least in the Sabi sands, not be too active once it starts warming up. And according to the weatherman, we are in for a scorching hot day today, 40 degrees Celsius and upwards thereof. But for now, it's still nice and cool. Still wearing our fancy new jackets that we all got. Very nice. You can see Safari live here. Very bold and bright. Very nice jackets that we're all happy with. So we are currently on our eastern boundary. The road is called the Chitwa cut line, and I'm just checking carefully to make sure there's no tracks of anything coming in or out, and then we can kind of start working our way into the center parts of our area of traverse. Thanks Gypsy Mystery for getting back to me regarding your question earlier. I wasn't too sure exactly what you wanted from me, but you've said that you're basically just looking for any tales and stories of troublesome encounters that I've had in my years as a guide. And I guess we can start off by saying that most of the time you have your most hair-raising and dangerous scenarios when you're on foot. When you're in the vehicle, it's unlikely that you're going to get into any kind of major issues, because animals have got a lot more respect for a very big vehicle that can rev loudly. And just found some leopard tracks. It's not in the tree behind us, no. So it's unlikely that I'll be able to tell you too many stories about being in a vehicle with a hair-raising situation. However, there was one scenario where an elephant bull came right up to the front of one of these cars, and he put his tusks under the bull bar and he very gently lifted the vehicle up. It was an inquisitive, very strange behavior. He wasn't aggressive, and he kind of then walked away eventually after I told him he was being a bit naughty, and he walked off down the road, and about 20 minutes later we bumped into him again at a waterhole having a mud wallow, and he then proceeded to walk up to this side of the car, and he basically put his right tusk over here against just where because there's no door, so just against the metal over here, and his left tusk would have been somewhere over here. And at that point in time, Dave, who was on camera, I think he had only been with us for about a week, because the elephant's head is so big, all you could see was full frame elephants, and you couldn't see my hand. I actually ended up putting my hand on the tusk of the elephant and trying to push it away. Not that me pushing an elephant would have done anything, but he did end up turning and moving off. But that was definitely one of the most kind of hair-raising encounters. But it was strange because he was inquisitive. He wasn't aggressive. There have been other scenarios where elephants have charged us in the vehicles, but thankfully we don't run into trouble too often. So here are the leopard tracks. It's a male leopard, judging by the size of them. And I've been checking this road very carefully. They're heading in this direction, so we just need to work out which way he veered off. Did he go into Djuma or out of Djuma? So I'm just going to have to spend a couple of minutes here. Because this road is so soft and sandy, I'm fairly convinced his tracks will cut off quite soon. And hopefully he heads into Djuma. Now, I'm not too sure who it could be just yet. Maybe Tingana, maybe Hosanna, maybe another nervous leopard or an unknown leopard. So we're going to continue to spend a bit of time on foot here, try and work out which way he's gone. And while we do that, we're going to send you to Tristan, who's trying to work out where exactly is Thandi's den site.
I am indeed. I have found where I think it is. It's a horrible mess of branches, trees, bushes, and everything else that makes it almost impossible to see what's going on in there. And so it's the tracks of the vehicles go in, and it goes around like a thicket with a termite mound in the middle of that thicket. But it is literally, the visual of the termite mound, I would say, is probably a 5 out of 5. So if it's inside there, she's almost going to be invisible in that area. So we're going to probably just let it kind of go and let her just do her thing, and the best way will be to actually follow her towards wherever that cub is. Also, I don't want to put too much pressure if she's not there. At the end of the day, we don't want to make too much of a mess around that section. So I'm pretty sure that's where it is. It's pretty close to the Wahlbergs Junction, which is exactly what the guys were telling me when they told me about where the new den is and where they saw the cub yesterday. So it's around this section, and of course the den site now, for those of you who don't know, is actually open for one vehicle a drive, and so we're allowed to kind of go and check it now. We're only allowed to check it once in the drive, and so once it's been checked, then that's it for the rest of the drive, which is fine. It's perfect. Now her tracks did come in this direction, so I'm pretty sure she is somewhere in there. It's just that I'm not going to go walking around with Thandi and a cub in a den site because, well, she can be a little bit feisty, to say the least, and given that she's moved a den and this is a fairly new den for her, I don't really want to unsettle her in any way whatsoever. We want her to be able to settle in nicely and to keep the cub in this particular section as much as possible. So we're going to just leave her to do her thing that side. We'll drive around, maybe she comes out. I doubt it though. I'm pretty sure that she had a good feed. Once the hyenas came, she's gone back to the cub, and I think she's going to have a situation where she'll spend most of her morning with the little one and play and bond and suckle and do all of those kind of motherly things that she does. Chitwa, like, are you wondering if I've had a day where I found all the leopards in Djuma? No, so I haven't had a day like that yet. We'll keep sort of faith that we will. We've had some crazy days. We've had days where we've seen a lot of leopards on Djuma, but I've never had all of them. So, I mean, all of them would be, let's just list them. You'd have to have Djuma, you'd have to have this new male now, then there'd be Shadow and the cub, then you'd have Thandi and the cub, you'd have Hosana, Tamba, Tingana, who am I thinking of? Kuchava. That's 10. You would have, who else comes into our quarantine? Ingrid Dam, young female, Mvula. So we're already on 13 leopards. So the chances of all 13 being on Djuma is pretty remote, and in fact probably not even in any way possible. But I think, I'm actually not sure how many leopards I've seen in one day here at Djuma. I would love to actually know. I think probably 4 or 5 might be the most that I've seen in a day. 6, I don't know. Since I've been working at Safari Live, I'm not sure. It'd be interesting to know. I don't really kind of think about it that often. As long as we kind of driving around, and if we get one leopard, then that's perfect. That's more than enough for me. But we have had some really good days where I know I've had Shadow, Thandi, Hosana, Tamba, and who else? Tingana, I think, in one day. So I've had them. It'd be interesting though. I would like to kind of think about it and try and see. Now what's going on here? Hyena tracks all over the place, which is to be expected given that the hyenas were very busy at the dam. We've just come past Gowrie Dam, so I'm pretty unsurprised by the fact that there are hyenas around. But I'm just going to slowly check around. I want to try and see if there's any line tracks coming from the from the north. Now, Ali, you wondering about any updates on the new leopard? So we haven't seen it again since our rehearsal day where Scott found it on foot. We think it's that leopard. I mean, in that particular situation at first, because he was quite relaxed on foot, initially everyone thought Hosana, but when we got in with the vehicle, it was immediately evident it wasn't Hosana. But it seems as though if it was him, he's then gone back to the west towards Arathusa side. I know he was seen, was it yesterday? I think he was seen. I saw a picture of him from that side. So he's around. He's busy kind of meandering about Arathusa and our western side. But he's quite a skittish individual, and he's not one that's that relaxed just yet. What surprises me is that he's relaxed on foot, more relaxed than he was on the vehicle, to be honest. In fact, Scott got a better view of him from on foot than I did from the car, so it's interesting. And James said to me he was relaxed with him on the vehicle, but I'm sure that's because of the mating situation. Male leopards, even when they're unrelaxed, will be far more relaxed with a female, because the female at the end of the day doesn't move, and his sole kind of purpose is to mate with that female, and so he ends up being kind of pegged there by her. So it's interesting. I mean, I'm hoping that he's going to spend more time, and the more he's around and on carcasses and is around females, the more relaxed he'll get with the vehicles, and hopefully he will be seen. The thing is that we don't really want a new male leopard at the moment. As much as it's nice always to see new blood and to see new leopards, it's always exciting for a guide, or for all of us, to see new leopards. The thing is, we don't really want one at the moment, and the reason is because Shadow's cub is still dependent on Shadow, and you've got Thandi's cub, and so both of those cubs are at high risk if there's a new male around, and he most certainly could be a very bad thing for both of them. So ideally we want him just to stay around Arethusa side. Every now and then he can poke his nose in at Djuma so we can see him, but otherwise to try and just kind of keep him away from here. Tingana is going to have to try and just sort of keep marking and making sure that this individual doesn't come this section, because at the end of the day, like I say, we don't really want a situation of a new male coming in. We want Thandi's cub to survive, we want Shadow's cub to survive, and so it will be better for him to stay away for now. Right, hopefully we'll be able to find a leopard as well. All this talk of leopards, it would be nice to actually see one this morning. It's been a bit of a leopard drought for me the last few days. Now, Maritza, are you wondering what the difference is between a leopard and a jaguar? They look the same to you? Well, they do look very similar, except that a jaguar is a much bigger animal than what a leopard is. So a jaguar is almost, a big male jaguar would be almost the size of a lioness, and the female jaguar is about the size of our male leopard, so a lot larger. The rosettes on a jaguar tend to be a lot bigger as well and more spread out. You'll also have a situation where our little blue wax ball flew away. You'll also have a situation where jaguar's tail is much shorter than what a leopard's tail is, so in relation to the size of the body, the jaguar's tail is a much shorter thing, and the reason why is that they tend to not climb nearly as much as what you see from the leopards. Also where they occur, so jaguars are animals that occur in South America, so in the rainforest, in the Amazon is where you get jaguars, and then into Venezuela and parts of those areas, whereas leopards are restricted to Africa and Asia, so you don't actually see them in China. You also get leopards in China, but you don't see them here in they're in South America, so they occur in two different continents, and so that helps with just being able to know where they are and the differences between them. But essentially size, spot pattern and tail are the three easiest distinguishing factors between a jaguar and a leopard. I also find jaguars have a different kind of look to them. The proportions seem different to what the leopards do, although I suppose that's all just a kind of personal thing. Right. Now I wonder where the Nkahuma Pride is at the moment, because they have been absent at best. I can't even remember the last time I saw an Nkahuma Pride member, and so we're going to go and look for them. And while we do that, let's go back across to Scotty D and see if he's decoded the mystery around those tracks on Cheetah Cutland.
No, I certainly haven't worked out exactly what is going on with the male leopard tracks that I've been trying to kind of get a better grip of where exactly they've headed. And basically he continued to walk down the road for about another 30 meters, and then his tracks disappear. So I'm not too sure whether he went east or west. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to loop around and do a big kind of loop through this general area. Hopefully we'll hear some alarm calls and find some of his tracks on one of the roads deeper into Djuma. It's always a bit of a catch-22 jumping off the vehicle and trying to do some tracking, because we don't want to spend too much time away from the vehicle, because that means time away from you, which means we tend to kind of try and rush the tracking procedure, which sometimes can be a slow process where you basically have to follow each track step for step. Now we've got some lion tracks, sadly going out of the property. You can see a whole bunch of tracks here. 1 lion, 2 lion, 3 lion, 4 lion, 5 lion. So a whole pride of lion. Mainly lioness, it looks like, judging by these tracks. Maybe a few sub-adults with them, because there's a few small tracks. But they've all headed straight east, sadly, out of Djuma. Now, the great thing about the Sabi Sands is that even though there may be boundaries for us humans, there's no boundaries for the animals, and there are boundaries for us for a very good reason, so that there's no any given area that gets congested with too many vehicles. So it's in everyone's best interests, including the animals. But sadly this morning it means that we are not going to be able to follow these tracks. So I must just call this in over the radio. Tracks over Hlampe Ngala head east on Chitwa line, Central Junction. Okay. Okay, copy, thanks Trist. It seems like these lions have already been located. I'm still working out what's what and where's where. Alright, well, we shall continue then, all the way up towards Buffalo's Hook Dam, which is a waterhole up ahead of us. Hello Anne-Marie, you'd like to know, having spent 4 months up in the Masai Mara, predominantly with cheetah, are they now my favorite big cats? Well, they've definitely climbed up the rankings. They're ahead of lion. Lion are at the bottom for me at this stage of the game. And possibly not being fair for them, but they're so lazy and they spend so much time doing nothing that I prefer the prospects of a leopard or a cheetah, because at least they sometimes actually provide us with some action and entertainment. The amount of time I've spent with sleeping lions has made me become less prone to want to spend huge amounts of time with them. But that is mainly because we have chosen the wrong time to sit with them. It's not their fault. They do move just as much as leopard and cheetah do. It's just that cheetah move during the day, which suits us a bit more. But yeah, I've definitely fallen more in love with cheetah, but having arrived back in the Sabi Sands now and got 1 or 2 glimpses of leopard, I think they are still my favorite. So leopard, cheetah, then lion today. If you ask me tomorrow, I'll probably give you a different answer, Anne-Marie, depending on who's been providing us with the best action and entertainment. So I'm a little bit fickle on this topic. But they've all got their benefits, and like I said, it's more about us picking and choosing when to spend time with them, because they're all interesting in their own right. But yeah, I think leopard are still at the top of the podium for me. You guys are going to be heading back up to the Masai Mara with Ralph.
It seems like you guys are having quite a bit of fun tracking lion and leopard, etc. And I just stopped here as we've come down from the escarpment through the grasslands and heading a little bit into the marshy areas, heading towards the river. And I think this might be the same spot that Taylor had yesterday. This looks to be a crowned crane nest. I'm pretty sure that this individual is sitting on a nest, because this is how they do nest out in the open in the grasslands. And I would not be surprised his or her companion is also just near us as well, but we'll have a look at that in a minute. You can see it is in full breeding plumage. It's quite difficult to tell between male and female. They both do get those lappets underneath the bill, and that crown is very identifiable with the crowned crane. Well, it's a fantastic little viewpoint of this nesting crowned crane, and for me it's absolutely fascinating. Coming from the escarpment, you've got a specific habitat, and then you hit into the grasslands, and it's a little bit of a savanna biome type habitat, and then you hit the real grasslands, and then you've got a little bit of marshy area heading towards the Mara River, and then obviously alongside the Mara River you've got all the riverine vegetation, so it is extremely diverse. And then in the background you can see a lot of impala just feeding along in the scrub as well, and they particularly adaptable in what they can feed on. And here it seems like they're grazing nicely. Fantastic size horns on that individual there. That's one of the things I've noticed hitting here in Kenya. The size of the horns on the impala is just, it's magnificent, and it seems quite a bit bigger than the ones that we see in the Sabi sands. Not particularly, I wouldn't say that the animal is that much bigger, but just the horn sizes is what has struck me as being much bigger than the guys there in the Sabi sands. Now why that is, I'm not quite sure. Maybe because of the predator density there, they've taken out more of the bigger ones. I'm not sure. I'm just taking a wild guess. But a nice little bachelor herd there, and these guys also doing their morning feeding, and maybe later in the afternoon they will start to ruminate like the buffalo that we started with. And they had obviously spent a little bit of the evening feeding, and then they were lying down, resting up, ruminating. Remember, they do need to spend that time to ruminate. Now, Kathy in Ohio, you're wondering what's my favorite animal to find. I've got a whole range of different animals that I love to find. The honey badger is still eluding me since I've been with Safari Live, so I'm still looking out for that. Serval is a very good one, but I think for this morning we would like to maybe pick up on some crocodile. That is what has been requested, and this morning I'm going to be after those big crocodiles. So we're heading down towards the river as we go along here, Kathy, and for this morning I think my favorite animal is going to be the crocodile. Let's head down there and see if we can find some. And as I say, these individuals being massive, it's incredible. I mean, I saw some of them from the hot air balloon, and it was a sight to behold how big they are even from the air. And as I've said, it must have to do with the diet of predominantly hooved animals, as opposed to a lot of the areas in the Kruger Park and even in the Zambezi, etc. There's a lot down more fish diet, whereas here they're a lot with the migration, and it even shows with that one lion with the missing end of his tail. He's probably also fallen prey to a snapping crocodile. But fascinating. For the time being, we're heading through this marshy area, and just want to have a look all the way through. Craig, you're wondering what is the best time of year to visit the Mara? Well, for me, I would say that it's probably around that migration period. That's sort of September to November, more or less. But you know, for me, I'm actually very excited because, you know, you've got that influx of a huge amounts of animals crossing the river, and obviously it makes for spectacular scenes of, you know, all the wildebeest and the zebra and the gazelle crossing the river, and they've got to get past those waiting crocodiles. And then on the other side there's the predatory cats, which are also waiting in ambush as these animals come through. But now that period period is obviously a very big period of the resources is very high, so everybody's got a lot to feed on. But now after that, the resources have now shrunk. So the influx of all that game has moved off a little bit towards Tanzania and the Serengeti, and now we've got these predators that a month or two ago they had more than they could eat, and now all of a sudden they're struggling a little bit. So it does become a little bit exciting now too, as the resources have shrunk. It puts a little bit of stress on them, but it also makes for good viewing, because we can follow these predators and we can find them really trying to hunt and hunt down the smaller groups of game that are around. So, but I would definitely say that, coming to the Mara, it's like going to Namibia. You've got to go to see the exciting, spectacular scenes like the dunes, etc. I mean, coming to the Mara, you would have to see the migration. So I would say that is most likely the best time of year to come and visit these national parks, or national reserves as they call them up here in Kenya. Now, there also has been, I think a few people have mentioned on social media, there's been a bit of a worrying sight of a little lion that was stuck with a spear in it. And I'd like to just make a little bit of a mention about this. I mean, we are in an area, an extremely wild area, but let's not forget that there are people living on the edges of these wild areas, and the reality of it is that we're always going to have human-animal conflict. And when we're talking about the Mara, it's synonymous with predators, and in particular very large numbers of lions. And lions breed actually very successfully if left alone, and their population obviously wants to expand in the Mara area, but at the same time we've got human populations expanding on the boundaries of these reserves as well. So inevitably you're going to have human-predator conflict, and with the numbers of both sides expanding on the edges of the reserves, we're going to have these predators coming into conflict with humans, and the end result is always going to be unfortunately the predator taking the short end of the stick, because you need to put yourself in these people's shoes as well. It's one thing to criticize that kind of picture, which is very sad, but put yourself in their shoes for one day and you might think a little bit differently. Now, on a bit of a different topic, Mikey, you're wondering, do elephants migrate? Mikey, elephants used to migrate on quite a big scale. I know in southern Africa, and it would also extend up into the central parts of Africa, but in the central parts of Africa, the resources may be a little bit easier to come by on a bigger scale. So there wasn't that massive amounts of migration with elephants in Central Africa. But when we talk about southern Africa, we did definitely have a very big migration routes, and that would be around the resources once more. Remember that elephants need to drink a lot every day, up to 100 liters of water per day. They also need to eat, up to 100 kilograms of mass of vegetation per day as well. So a lot of resources required to sustain them. And what would happen then is you've got that tropical region of the Okavango Delta bordered by very much desert and arid conditions. Now they would shift from that Okavango Delta into the more arid areas after a lot of rain, and then they would shift back. And a lot of the roads that the humans have built now are built on the ancient elephant routes, because elephants would also take the path of least resistance, especially when they were crossing through mountains and ridges, and obviously then humans followed upon that. Now, just off to the right here, we've got a lovely little scene of a giraffe sort of sitting down or lying down. Not lying down, he's got his head up. I know there has been a lot of questions. How do giraffe sleep, or how do they lie down? Well, that's generally how giraffe do sleep. They'll sit like that and then rest their head on their rump. Now, just to finish that question with elephants, yes, they would have migrated, but not on the grand scale that you get here in the Serengeti with the wildebeest and zebra, etc. But they always, migrations generally are around the lack or the extension of resources. So that's what they would be following. And elephants would shift around as well in regards to that. But you wouldn't see them congregating in their millions. Maybe back in the times before the humans had a massive influence on them, as we have today, there was all that movement of game, and there would have been big numbers of elephants moving around as well. So it's fascinating to think. But now, with the influx of humans, we do put a lot of fences down, and we try to keep the wildlife away from the domestic stock as well. And that's where the fences and things have started to come up. Right, so we've got a lovely scene here with the waterbuck and the giraffe just grazing through. Obviously the giraffe was just lying down, but this waterbuck is just having his morning graze as well. Right, folks, I'm going to send you off down south, all the way back to South Africa, and you can go and see what Tristan is up to. He's going to give you a lovely little update.
Well, I hope to give a lovely update. Hopefully it won't be anything else but that. So far we've come northwards. We've checked all along the northern perimeter towards Sydney's Dam and then along Triple M, and no luck whatsoever of anything. The only thing I did see very briefly was some Amo falcons, which is always nice to see them. They were flying about close to Sydney's Dam, and so that's nice that they're back in the area as well. I know they've been back for a few weeks now, but I haven't seen too many of them, so always good to catch up with some of those. Now we're just checking down towards the new road and just trying to kind of have a look and see if we can pick up some sort of sign of anything. I would quite happy to see some ellies as well, so I might go towards Treehouse Dam and have a little look for some ellies in that particular section as well, because otherwise it seems to be fairly quiet. Even the radio is eerily quiet this morning. I believe Scott's lion tracks belong to the Styx Pride and they were found somewhere in Torchwood, but other than that it seems as though really not too much else is going on. Right, let's take this road. This road hasn't given us much recently. It was a good road in the winter months when we first got it. We saw quite a few sightings of shadow and Tingana and various others, and so I think it will be a good test of let's see of what's lurking. The other nice thing about this road is I have been seeing lesser spotted eagles on this road recently, so it'd be nice to try and pick one of those up for those of you that are keeping birdless. That's not one that's some of you might have, because it is a migratory bird and one of the lesser seen eagles that we get here. Now that was not meant to be a pun in any way at all. I only thought about lesser spotted eagle and lesser seen after I've said it. What is amazing though is just how dense this area has gotten. This was absolutely barren 3-4 months ago. In fact, not even 2 months ago it was barren. There wasn't a blade of grass, all the trees had no leaves, and now it feels like a thick jungly environment. It's actually quite pretty here now. Oh, hello Impala. I haven't seen one of you this morning, other than one that was being mutilated in a tree. But nice to see one that is alive. Oh wait, actually we did see some, didn't we, Ferg? We saw 3 of them, yes. But nice to see one that is not being stripped to ribbons by a marauding clan of hyenas. It's very pleasant to see a male impala alive, rather. So, Vanessa, you're wondering if is there an animal that I would like to see that I've never seen in person. Well, Vanessa, if we're talking about any animal in the world, there are millions of them, or not millions of them, but there are a lot that I would like to see that I haven't seen. There's jaguars, polar bears, snow leopards, clouded leopards, Amo leopard, there is tigers, Asiatic lions. I would like to see pumas or bobcats. So there's lots of kind of things like that. Indian rhinos, Asian elephants in the wild. So there's lots of animals that I would like to see around the world for sure. But in terms of here in Africa, or in this particular part of South Africa, in the area that we work, there is only one animal that I have not seen here in the Sabi Sands that I am quite desperate to see, but I keep missing, and that is a caracal. So a caracal is a small cat, for those of you that don't know what it is. It's got these pointy ears with these little tufts on the end, and they are really very, very beautiful. They look much like a lynx in some regards, except they've got a reddish color like those impalas. And so it would be really nice to catch up with one of those. I know Taylor had a sighting of one at the beginning of the year, so hopefully we'll get to see one at some stage. I've got a lot of friends that have seen them in the Sabi Sands. I just haven't been fortunate enough to see one yet. But that is the number one animal within this particular section. But in the world, there are so many that I would love to go and see. And in fact, actually, I'm hoping next year to be able to go and see jaguars in the Pantanal. So I'm trying to plan a trip. Ali and I are maybe going to go and try and see if we can go and see the jaguars of the Pantanal Canal in the Amazon. So that would be quite nice, and that would be fun to go and do. What do you think, Ferg? Ferg thinks that sounds good. Right, now while I meander down our bumpy new road, as you can see, it's a bit like a roller coaster. You kind of got to roll with the bumps as you go. And while we do that, let's go back across to Ralph and some naughty baboons.
Yes, folks, and we've got a fascinating little scene here with these olive baboons. And look at this youngster riding mommy jockey style. Now, these are the olive baboon. They are the same genus as the Papio capensis or Chakma baboon that we get down south in South Africa. But this is a slightly different species with Papio cynocephalus anubis, the olive baboon that we get here in Kenya. And they've very similar habitat and or habits, should I say. Very terrestrial as well. Baboons do spend a lot of time on the ground. They're one of the primates that do this, terrestrial, and it's fascinating to watch. I absolutely love baboons. So the question going earlier, one of my favorite animals, I would have said crocodile, and this is surely one of them as well, because in their expressions, in their habits, in the way they do things, are very human-like, very intelligent creatures. There's a baby riding on the back of mum. And they've always got that curled up tail. We say in Afrikaans, the kromstert. It's a curled tail up off the ground. They don't like to leave it dragging. The vervet monkeys and the arboreal primates, very often when they're on the ground, they do drag their tails. But now, with these being terrestrial, they're obviously quite distinctive, keeping that tail off the ground. So I'm moving forward here a little bit. Let's keep up with these baboons, and we're heading towards the river as well. So hopefully we're going to see some hippos and crocodiles. But I do want to stay with these baboons for a little while, because, as I say, seriously fascinating. A lovely scene here in the morning. They'll be foraging, looking for little insects and grubs and also the bulbs. And I remember that the things that baboons eat, not necessarily humans can eat too, because they can eat things that will be quite poisonous to us. So the ones that we want to watch are the monkeys. Generally, vervet monkeys can eat things, we can eat them too. Now, Anna Marie, you're wondering if olive baboons are the only baboons that we find in the Mara, and as far as I'm aware, yes. So these are replacing the Chakma baboons of what we get in southern Africa, and these olive baboons being their cousins, same family, but they're the ones that dominate here. You can see they've got quite a bit more hair on them, and that's possibly for me being with us being in a a higher elevation here in Kenya. Now, it was quite surprising for me. I mean, we're only 1 degree south of the equator, and I would have thought that it's very hot being next to the equator, but with the altitude that we have, being at about 1,700 meters or just over a mile above sea level, we're actually quite temperate. Now look at this youngster digging. He's obviously trying to get down to some bulbs. And remember, these guys also learn from the adults. They passed on a lot of learned behavior, and especially the youngsters, you can see they're not very experienced in foraging. The adults are the ones that show them the way. Now, when we studied conservation, something that is particularly interesting when we got to ecology, and when we got into our later sections of ecology, we were also looking at animal behavior, or ethology. And something that is very interesting now, you must remember with baboons, with the females, they have their very red bottom. And when they are coming into season, their bottom gets even more red, and it is a sign of readiness. There's no pun there, but that is a very big indication to the males that they are ready to mate. And we had a very big debate with our lecturer, who passed on or put forward the angle that why do ladies wear lipstick? It is a very strange thing for us to be putting colouring on our faces, but the red being very much in terms of an attraction with ladies. And you know, I'm just speaking in a very instinctive, animalistic, primate talk here, and that was one of our debates that we had. Why do ladies wear lipstick? And I don't want to be crude, but is it not that primitive primate state of readiness, or looking for a mate, very similar to that of the baboons, and when the female gets that very red bottom. So anyway, feel free to throw your comments, but let's keep it clean. But that is a very interesting point of view, and the red being a state of attraction. As we sit here with these baboons that are now just moving off a little bit. We are right next to the Mara River. I can hear some hippos off in the distance, but we're going to be moving off soon. Now, Crazy Critter, you're wondering, do baboons ever stalk prey in a pack? Well, they don't generally stalk prey per se. You know, baboons can come across little baby born impala, for instance, and you know, any of the little young prey or babies that have just been born, but they don't really stalk, they don't really hunt, and it does go to show when they do actually come across a little baby like that and they start to feed on it, they're not quite adept at actually killing that animal. So what happens is it's quite a ghastly thing to watch. That animal literally gets disemboweled, and yeah, it's not a nice scene to watch, because they're not actually natural predators. They do like to feed on meat, but they're not very adept at killing it. So it does get sort of torn apart a little bit. And we've got some buffalo here moving down towards the river. Ooh, and we've got a little bit of action now happening in the river itself. I want to try and move us forward. Now, Lady Starfire, you're wondering what is the average troop size of the olive baboon? And this is a very good question. The average size of most baboons, if left in a natural state, would be 50 plus, and in these areas as well, it's quite it is quite regular to see them of that. Now I'm just trying to get us a viewpoint through here. I don't think I can drive through this spot. It's a little bit difficult, but there are some hippos that have just come down into the river, and I would love to show you, but this little path that we're on, we don't think I can get through. So let me see if I can get us a point of view from that side. I'm not quite sure. We'll give it a go through the trees here. Let's just see if Archie can use his skill and get through the branches there. And there's a huge pod of hippos that's come down, but it's really in the thick branches. It's quite difficult for him to point it through. Now Michael, you're wondering, do baboons ever cross the river at shallow points? Absolutely, but it's really a sight to behold. They put their arms up, they don't want to get their arms wet, so they put their arms up like this and they walk through on tippy toes. It is really funny to watch when baboons cross water, and they very often do it in the Okavango Delta, and you can see them crossing some of these little marshy areas as well, and they put their arms up like this and they really walk like strange. Now I want to get down to the river. Right, so while I try and get down towards the river and find a spot where we can see these hippos, let's go over to Scott, who I think has got a very exciting scene for you.
We certainly do, but just give me a moment, everyone. We've basically just found Thandi. She's just behind us, and when we noticed that we had found her, we were very close to her, and she did let off one or two snarls. So what I want to do is try and get a position further away from her where she feels a little bit more relaxed with our presence, and then we can snipe some views from a safe spot where she doesn't feel like we are too close to this tiny young cub. So this may not work, but let's give you an idea of where she is quickly. She's basically hiding out in the shadows underneath a fallen down tree over there, and she's somewhere lying in that long grass. And as soon as I saw her getting a little bit annoyed with us, I thought, rather than waiting a split second longer, let's give her a bit more space, and that way let her relax with our presence. So, like I've said, this is a female leopard with a tiny 5 to 6 week old little cub, and I'm guessing the cub is with her, lying somewhere in the shade and the shadows over there. So let me reverse a little bit more. We are going to have to just take our time and quite delicately go about this situation, rather than putting any unnecessary pressure on her. I think we're going to get a better angle from here. Senzo seems to think he's got a glimpse of her. Where are you hiding, Thandi? Go forward a tiny bit. If I go forward a tiny bit... Oh, I can see some movement. I think that's the tiny cub I saw move. Hey? Stop there. I think I saw the tiny little cub moving. It's hard to be certain. But we are just going to wait patiently in this area, at a distance where Thandi is relaxed with our presence. I know you can't see anything right now, but we are just going to have to be very, very patient and as sensitive as possible, because we don't want to give this leopardess and her cub a hard time. But I think where we are here, we are in a good spot to just sit and wait patiently. I'm so happy we found the spot where I'm guessing the den is. I'm guessing there's a little bit of a cave underneath this fallen down tree. Not hugely different to the previous den site before she moved here. It was also in the banks of a riverbed, and it was just a kind of a natural cavity. Phew. Well done, Senzo. Senzo actually spotted her initially, and what's interesting with leopard is it's only once you've spotted them that they'll become frustrated if you are too close. And the reason for that is that they know full well as and when they have been spotted, and if they are trying to hide from you, they obviously don't necessarily like the fact that they may have been found. What to do? Hello, Chitwa. You would like to know if this leopardess would attack us if we got too close. And yes, there is most certainly a likelihood that she would attack us. In a vehicle, I think less so than on foot, but if we were moving through this area on foot, I think there is a definite chance that she could decide it was worth her while to launch a full-blown attack. Even though the chances are small, and I'm guessing she'd probably just growl and charge out at us and not commit to a full charge, there is a chance of that happening, and there's also nothing stopping her jumping into this vehicle and tearing us to pieces. Even though the odds are slim, if you are to push an animal enough, they will do things that even they probably wouldn't presume that they would do. And it's no different to humans, you know. I guess a lot of us, if pushed into a scenario, and if people don't listen to our warnings and our advice that we are trying to give them, then even we could snap and do the unthinkable. So I think we are definitely safe where we are now. We were parked very, very close to that shady patch. I'm guessing we were probably 4 meters away from her when Senzo initially spotted her, and it was at that point that I thought, let's just move a little bit further away. She's going to feel more comfortable, and more importantly, well, not more importantly, but equally importantly, we don't want to give her little cub any negative thoughts regarding us and these vehicles. And it's critically important that we are as sensitive as possible, because if we are sensitive and we do assist in raising this little cub to a degree that it is completely relaxed with the vehicles, then that means we are going to have wonderful, wonderful viewings of it as it develops and grows without any concern for us. So tricky to know what to do now. I guess I can try and reposition again ever so slightly. What I'm going to do is just use my binoculars for a little bit, and hello Debbie, you've mentioned that you would rather never see Thandi than scare her with her new cub, and yes, I mean, trust me, it's in none of our plans, with all of our last intentions to scare her and or her cub, but there is a very fine line and balance between being too sensitive and not viewing these animals and actually viewing them. Bless you, Senzo. Senzo's holding in some sneezes. And we do need to remember that it is important that these animals do get habituated, because if none of the leopard in the Sabi sands were habituated, which does take human influence, then we wouldn't have been so lucky as to get all the incredible sightings that we are seeing. And importantly, the Sabi Sands wouldn't be a world-renowned leopard viewing destination, which helps to definitely keep it well looked after and protected. There we go. Well done, Senz. Now, Senzo's got an ear in focus, so I think, and I also just got a glimpse of her. I think I can reposition the vehicle ever so slightly to get, oh no, okay, yeah, okay, so I just need to move forward a tiny bit for Senz, because there's a few branches in the way. Just stay on her there, Senz. We're going to break the rules here. We're going to stay zoomed in while moving, and that way we'll just know exactly when we are in the best possible spot. I think that's... Let me just reverse a tiny bit. There's the cub. There you can see the tiny little cub in the background. Cute, there it is. Well done, Senzo. And it looks like it's coming to Mom. It was just a glimpse, but you could definitely see it there. And what an awesome, awesome scene this is. Even though it's just the slightest of glimpses we are getting, it is our second time that we are lucky enough to view this tiny little fur ball. Woohoo! And I'm very... Oops, sorry, Senzo. I just took my foot off the brake and we went sliding out of position, but I think we are actually in a better spot now. Now we can see Thandi. You were perfectly on her. If you just... Oh, that, well done, Sens. Now, it's tricky for us to see exactly what's going on. I've got a dusty monitor. At least it's bigger than Senzo. Senzo's got a tiny one that he's looking at. So it can be difficult for us to see as well as you guys are seeing. Looks like the cub's coming towards us. And thank you everyone to all your wonderfully kind words congratulating Senzo and I on getting you a glimpse of this young cub. There's Mama. Hello, proud cat Mama. You'd like to know if, as and when Thandi moves this cub from place to place and den to den, will she carry her in her mouth? And yes, I think for the majority of the time that is exactly what will happen, because the cub is still tiny. Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure the cub's not actually creeping up on us. I saw a tiny bit of movement in the grass and I thought maybe this curious little kitten has come to say hello. But I think I'm wrong. So yes, I think definitely at this age, up to about 3 months or 2 months, 2 to 3 months of age, leopards will carry their cubs in their mouth, but not necessarily all the time. And it also depends on how many cubs she may have, because if she did have multiple cubs, then of course she can only carry one at a time, and sometimes they will decide to move all the cubs together in one movement, which means she can take turns carrying the one cub, but one of the cubs, but the other two will have to trundle alongside. Epic stuff. Now we aren't gonna move. Oh, there we go. Well done, Sens. We just got another little tiny glimpse of that cub. Looked like it may have fallen off its mom. Seems like it's playtime for the cub. And I'm just so happy that we've been lucky enough to be able to get a view of Mom and the cub from a safe distance where they both feel relaxed with our presence. She would very clearly let us know if she was not happy with where we were, and she would do that by snarling at us. If we didn't listen to her snarls, then maybe she would even charge out at us, growling and hissing. So we are definitely in a good spot here. We're having absolutely no negative impacts on the situation. So that is the great news. And we certainly aren't going to be going anywhere for the rest of this safari, but you guys will be. You're going to be heading back up to the Masai Mara with Ralph. I'm not too sure what he's got lined up for you.
Yes, folks, so I tried to get us around a little bit where those hippos had entered the river. There was a whole